You're listening to Finding My Own Weird, where we'll follow yours truly on a journey to discover my own authentic weird self. I'm your host, Christine Lassiter. Joining me will be amazing guests who found their own formula and are living and thriving as their own wonderfully weird selves. So hold on tight, it's about to get weird. Several years ago, my boyfriend and I were driving through Seattle looking for shoes for him to wear for his nephew's wedding. We were about to hop onto the on-ramp when I look over at the bus stop. There I saw a middle-aged woman sitting on a bench, just holding a small brown paper bag in her hand. And in most ways, she was pretty unremarkable. She had short brown wavy hair, plain t-shirt and jeans, pudgy cheeks. And I normally wouldn't even given her a second thought, but there was one more thing. She was wearing a tiara. I deemed her the bus stop princess. It was such a brief sighting, but that one detail has stuck with me for almost 10 years. As soon as I got home from that visit, I painted a picture of her. I actually ended up selling that picture several years ago, but the bus stop princess has stayed close to my heart. I want to know her story. I've come up with so many scenarios of what she was doing that day. Maybe she was just having a bad day and a tiara cheers her up. Maybe she feels invisible and a tiara makes her seen. I sure saw her. Maybe she has a sick parent and she was their princess, so she puts on the tiara to visit them in the hospital. I know I'll never know the real story, but she has no idea the impact she made. Sometimes we need a tiara, or funky earrings, or even a full Sleestak suit in order to feed our inner weird. Our next guest is Brent Marr. He took the idea of a funny retro Halloween costume and turned it into a fantastic way of life. Now he brings joy and sometimes jump scares to the people of Portland. Welcome, Brent Marr, the Portland Sleestak. Hi, Brent. Thanks so much for being here.
Thank you. Good to see you.
Good to see you again. You are a bigger-than-life character.
Well, at least my alter ego is.
Yes. You could be found in some of the most creative places, doing some of the most creative things, but you were not always this huge 7-foot Sleestak.
No, that's true.
So let's go back a little bit. Let's talk about where you grew up and ways that you felt like you were different when you were younger and how you dealt with that.
Okay, well, I was born and raised in Spokane, Washington, eastern Washington, right about the Idaho border, just across from Post Falls, Idaho. Basically a very conservative city. It's a kind of I would say it's like a big town more than it is a city, although it looks like a city from the outside.
Right.
But yeah, it's very conservative there. And I lived pretty much in every section of the city at one time or another. I went from school to school. For whatever reason, my mom liked to change apartments like she changed socks. So, or houses or whatever the case may be. So I pretty much went to a different elementary school every year, a different junior high, and 3 high schools for over 4 years. So yeah.
Wow. Was that hard for you to adjust?
Well, it was always, in some cases, not as much. There were certain places where I seemed to fit in okay, and other places where I didn't, where I felt awkward and like the odd kid out and,
Right.
And being the new kid's kind of tough anyway. So,
yeah, that's never an ideal situation.
Right.
Well, when you did have times that you felt a little bit more comfortable, were you sad when you had to move from those places to new
definitely.
places?
It would seem like I'd just get settled with a group of friends and then I'd go. And when you're a kid, you don't think about, exchanging phone numbers.
Right.
We
didn't have
later
text
on,
back then.
you think about, oh gosh, I haven't thought about those guys in years.
Right.
And what do you do?
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's in itself a challenge. So did you find that you were kind of more of a loner then because of that?
Definitely. Yeah.
Well, what are some of the ways that you dealt with it? Did you have hobbies and things that you did?
A lot of times I would spend my days drawing comic book characters, that kind of thing, sort of writing my own fantasy comic books in my head. And it never really amounted to anything, but it kept me busy.
It seems like you had a creative spark from the beginning, though.
Certainly.
So you went through different schools and everything. Did you ever see these kids outside of school? Did you ever hang out with them?
Not generally. My mother didn't like other people's kids.
Yeah.
So,
I can understand.
we spent time with the family mostly. And if I did hang out with friends, it was at their house, but that was kind of few and far between as well, because she also didn't want us out of her sight.
Right,
So,
right. Yeah, that's tough.
yeah, kind of a catch-22 in that department. But
Well, after you graduated, I mean, did you start out just having kind of odd jobs then?
well, I worked in restaurants and bars for many years, kind of floundering around trying to figure out what I was going to do. Eventually, I settled into picture framing and art galleries and that kind of thing for a while. And that brought me to Seattle and then eventually Portland. And, I did more restaurants and bars for a while there. And now I've done a lot of other things since I moved to Portland. Paratransit driver, appliance repairman. Now I'm a maintenance technician for a property management company.
When you were doing the picture framing, did you enjoy doing that?
Definitely. Yeah. It was, learning how to, preserve priceless antiques, that kind of thing. It was all very fascinating. Unfortunately, there's no money in it.
Right. That's true on a lot of things that we really like to do.
Right.
That it just doesn't, if it would just pay the bills. We
Right.
just wanted to pay the bills, right?
Not asking for much, but
Right.
yeah. The highs and the lows just became too much to deal with, because you're super, super busy in the holidays and then you're starving all summer long.
Right. One of my previous guests, Roxanne, she actually, for 9 years, she actually made custom frames, learned how to do all the carving, learned how to do all of the gold leafing and everything else. So, I mean, really intricate stuff. So it's funny how my guests kind of overlap in different ways.
Right.
of in the weirdest sort of ways, which,
Definitely.
maybe that's kind of why y'all are all on this little trail here.
Yeah.
So when you moved from Spokane to Seattle, I mean, that had to be a really big change for you, because that's...
Yeah. Seattle kind of chewed me up and spit me out. I was working 2 jobs just to stay afloat, sitting on the bus hours a day, getting from one place to the other. And in the 3 years that I lived there, I couldn't say that I made any close friends. So,
Right.
and I did have a friend here when I first came here. She's since moved away, but at least I had somebody, that I knew when I got here.
I mean, that makes a little bit of a difference.
We barely saw each other, but at least I knew she was here.
You just felt the presence of,
Right.
there's somebody here that I know.
Right.
So what made you choose it? Is she the reason why you chose Portland?
No, I actually had considered both before, Seattle and Portland before I moved to Seattle. I got caught up in the bright lights of the big city and, I was young and
Right.
ready to go. So, just found out I bit off more than I could chew, unfortunately. So, it happens.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then you were just thinking,
Portland seemed like a nice happy medium, and there was some weird things about Portland that I liked, and people were friendlier, and I seemed to make connections better here. So
yeah, for a city that's over 600,000 people, it feels like a very small city.
Definitely.
Which is, I come from a teeny tiny town too.
Right.
So to come here for a place that's multiple times bigger than where I ever lived, it's interesting that it feels very small town.
Townish. Yeah.
Which I love that.
This coming May 3rd is my 20th anniversary in Portland.
So you've seen a lot of weird in Portland over the years.
Yeah.
So you said kind of that weird kind of drew you here, and so was there anything in particular about the weird? Did you just maybe think of
nothing
the
that I can
arts?
really put my finger on at first? I just kind of slipped into it as I spent more time here. I kind of floundered around with jobs for quite a while here. It was just sort of hard to find a niche at first, but
because 20 years ago, I mean, that was a tough time.
Yeah. Jobs
everywhere.
Yeah. And I applied for jobs that were being advertised that I was wholly qualified for,
Right.
As a picture framer, and not even getting a call back for whatever reason, so.
Because
There was
apparently
always-
they're everywhere.
Yeah.
They're everywhere. Picture framers are everywhere.
So, so that, that's how I slipped back into bars and restaurants again. Yeah. There's always that, if nothing else.
Oh, right. Particularly in Portland, there's a plethora of
Maybe
bars
not
and
as much anymore, but we'll see. hopefully we'll get back there.
I think we're going to get back there. So you kind of jumped to these different jobs. At what point did you decide to get into that more creative again, kind of pick up that interesting, weird again?
Well, besides the drawing, I was always kind of a more introverted person, after high school, anyway.
Right.
I was always more introverted and quiet. And on a whim, I decided to join the Oregon Bears and run for one of their titles.
So what is the Oregon Bears?
It was a fraternal organization to organize social events for like-minded guys to get together and party and drink and meet and also kind of piggyback with charity work as well. So we do fundraisers, piggyback with events to raise money for various causes around Portland. Everything from our house to, Cascade AIDS Project, and Smirk is one that we went to a lot.
So what is Smirk?
I'm not sure if it's even still in operation. I believe it is, but it's a youth group for gay youth and gay and trans youth.
Wow. So again, another overlap is Poison Waters does a lot with Cascade.
Right.
So that's, one of the things that I've seen that's been pretty consistent in talking to the weird of Portland in particular is how much they're giving back to the community. I think that is, people look at weird and Portland and everything, and they don't understand that weird is a positive and that you can use all of that weird for such cool,
definitely
great causes.
Anytime that you can give just a little bit back and still have fun doing it, it's a win-win for everybody.
Right, right. So you did the Bears.
Yes.
Okay. And then what did you do after that?
Again, just kind of sat around trying to figure out what was going on until I decided that I wanted a Sleestak Halloween costume. I was going to buy a mask and wear like a John Travolta leisure suit with the big lapels and wear that as a Halloween costume. And when I couldn't find one commercially available,
You mean that from that, 1970s TV show, Land of the Lost, you couldn't find just a ready-made Sleestak costume?
The costume that they made back then was one of the plastic ones that you cut your tongue on.
Oh, yeah.
And they were terrible. It was like yellow. It didn't look anything like the character. But they did make another costume based on the 1990 movie that Will Ferrell did.
Right.
But those are incredibly rare and incredibly hard to find and also kind of hokey.
Yeah.
Better than the first ones, but...
well, that movie was a little hokey, so...
we don't like to talk about the movie.
Oh, the movie.
But,
y'all are traditionalists, right?
I decided, how hard can it be to make one? So
I would think hard.
Got a lump of clay and a head, and I started sculpting, and it turned out great, and it took on a life of its own from there. And I was building a body before you knew it, and charging my credit card to the limits. And
so you made your first one out of clay,
right? Just regular plasticine clay, because I didn't know anything about making masks at all.
Sure, yeah.
So I made the sculpture and then went to YouTube and learned how to make molds. And
YouTube, where you can learn how to do brain surgery.
I spent so many hours, through the entire process, when I decided to make the body. And, I kind of guessed at some things, and there was lots of mistakes, some expensive, some that made me cry.
I'm familiar with, how your art can be painful sometimes.
I did cry quite often. But, eventually some other people, as I was moving forward, were reaching out that had some experience, and they helped me, gave me pointers here and there. And,
right.
I would do this and I would do that. And, and since then I've, learned a lot. So after the first suit was done, it was durable, all right, but it was also very hard to wear. So
yeah, because clay doesn't have any give to it.
Basically, once you make a mold, then you do a slip casting, with the mask latex.
Okay.
And I thought that by pouring it thick, it was making it more durable, but really it was just making it stiff and impossible to maintain for very long. So
I had pictured you actually wearing a clay mask, and I'm glad to know that you didn't. I don't know anything about that stuff.
I did make a second and a third suit. The second suit, was to apply what I learned from the first one and, realizing the mistakes that I had made. And it was semi-successful, but still pretty difficult to wear. Now I'm on the third version of the second version of the second suit. So there's two that look almost identical. And then the first one was sort of, I call him the Mark 1.
Right.
And then Sleestak 2.0 and 2.5, because they're virtually identical
Right.
when you look at them. But the third one is actually much lighter and more user-friendly.
So is it the second one that's in the peculiarium?
Yes.
Is that how you say
Yeah,
that?
I mounted it as a display-only piece.
Mhm.
So he's got a PVC skeleton. He's stuffed with shredded memory foam, all glued together, and then got a fresh paint job and fresh new eyes and a pedestal that I built him on wheels. So he.
So yeah, I mean that's like a museum piece now.
Yeah. Definitely go down and check him out. It's a good place to get a selfie with the Sleestak if you can't make it to my appearances
Right.
around town.
So was there a particular reason why the Sleestak stood out?
I don't really know. I mean, I remember watching the show when I was a kid,
Yeah,
and
me too.
clearly it made an impression. In high school, my weird little friends and I would run around speaking Sleestak, but we were actually just sort of hissing words out. Yeah, just that kind of thing. Just we were idiots, at 15 and 16.
It sounded like you had, some other weird friends. That's awesome.
No, we were just stupid. We thought we knew everything.
Well, I mean, not every teenager thinks they know everything.
Indeed.
And then they find out quickly they don't know anything.
Yeah, I look back at that time and
then they watch YouTube and they know everything again.
So stupid.
So you built these suits. It started out as a Halloween costume, but then when did it go from being just a Halloween costume into something that morphed into more?
Well, when it started taking on a life of its own, after the head was done, I've got to build this body.
Right.
And that literally took, about 8 months for the first one. Trying to figure out what steps to take.
Mhm.
And we did things like cutting out each individual scale from craft foam. And then I painted over that and with a heat gun.
How long did that take?
Oh, it was just forever.
Right.
It was forever. I had friends over and we'd cut out scales and then I was going to, put on everything and glue them on individually. And,
Oh my God.
some aspects of that worked, some not so much.
Right.
So like I said, the first one was like wearing a coffin. A tight
Right.
coffin.
Which is not the kind of coffin you want to be in. You don't want to be in a tight one, no.
I could kind of move my arms, but there was no bending of the knees.
Right.
That kind of. It looked okay, but so.
Were you like robot walking?
Yeah, basically. So with all that time and effort, there was no way that it was only going to be a Halloween costume.
Right. Right.
So let's go downtown and wait outside of an elevator and get some videos of me scaring the crap out of people.
Right, of
That aren't
course.
expecting a lizard man to be standing there.
Absolutely. Why not?
So that's where it kind of started. He's too big and too slow to be scary. So, surprising people, outside of just waiting outside an elevator is nearly impossible. And I started to realize that people just light up like Christmas when they see him rather than, oh my God, it's like,
Right.
whether they recognize the character at all.
Yeah, that's what's funny because we actually did a little photo shoot and that's what I noticed that not everybody is familiar with the old show or
Right.
even the Will Ferrell movie.
Right.
But when you're 7 feet tall and you're covered in
They're
scales and
bright green and yellow.
bright green, that
With giant feet and hands.
it doesn't even matter if they don't know. Now, for those of us that we do know, we did grow up with it. I mean, it's badass. But for people who don't know, it's still so cool. I would watch them just get giddy.
Yeah, definitely. And the most surprising is the little kids. I expected most little kids to just have meltdown after meltdown after meltdown, but by and large, most of them are just endlessly fascinated. They want to talk to me. They want to touch me. Not at all afraid.
Right.
Not at all.
Yeah, my funniest thing is when we did our photo shoot, the little old lady who she could not stop touching you.
Right.
She could not, when she found out you made your suit, she went crazy. I mean, she called her friend over. Come here, you've got to see, we made this. She's all filling up all your scales and stuff. I mean, she was enthralled with the suit and with the character. And that was so funny to see because it really does. It affects all ages.
Mhm. I cause traffic jams. You know,
Right.
if I'm on a street corner, people will want to slow down and take pictures, and
Of course.
you know, and they'll wave and yell at me. And of course, I can't hear them because I've got 3 cooling fans running in the head.
Right.
But you know, I do have a communicator that somebody's talking to me with, and you know, they said hello, or you know, sometimes it gets kind of confusing, but you know, it's so fun to watch how people react to it.
Yeah, we saw several people driving by the corner that were just like, what was that?
Right?
Yeah, because in Portland, you
It's a
see
Saturday
things.
in Gresham.
Yeah, in Portland, you see a little bit more of that kind of stuff, but we're like downtown Gresham in the studio here, and I have a feeling that's not an everyday occurrence here.
No.
I mean, in other parts of Gresham, there's a lot of things that are occurring, but
Right.
in this little cute little neighborhood, I think it was definitely a shock to see that.
Very good.
So then
I think people really enjoyed it.
oh, they had a blast.
Yeah.
I had as much fun as probably you did seeing all of the faces light up and people just gawking, and I mean, and I'm just
It makes it
standing
all
there
worth
beside
it.
you.
Right.
Well, so you decided, okay, this got to be more. And you can't do the scares aren't working because people are not
Right. So
scared.
at this point, I just kind of follow the river, I guess. You know, I just kind of let the flow take me wherever it takes me. So, you know, if an opportunity comes up for me to, like tonight, I'm appearing at a 80s disco dance party
Right.
just for the fun of it, you know.
That sounds like a blast.
So that was going to be a little bit more of a challenge because the communicators don't work in a loud environment like that. So
Right.
we'll have to work out some hand signals, you know.
Well, you know,
it's time to change my batteries, or you know,
when the music's loud,
yeah,
communicating at all doesn't work.
it's true.
So they're not really chatting anyway.
Yeah. So we're probably going to be taking a lot of selfies, and with any luck, we'll get some footage of the Sleestak having some dance moves going on.
Absolutely. Well, you know, and that's 80s. That's right up my
Right. Yeah, that was my heyday too. Although I was more of a hairband kid.
Oh, yeah. I mean, Bon Jovi was
Right.
mine, you know.
Yeah, Def Leppard.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Like all of them.
I mean, I like the old classics too. Yeah, Led Zeppelin.
Well, yeah.
My mom actually had an amazing record collection.
Really?
Yeah. She was pretty hip for a mom.
Well, that's very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, we have a lot of records now, and I tend to gravitate to those 80s. You know, I was into all the big hair bands, but I would also throw in, you know, I mean, I was a teenage girl, so
Right.
there was Debbie
I
Gibson
kinda
and
was
all those
too.
too.
Yeah, I you know, I was a closet Madonna fan. I was a closet Cyndi Lauper fan. You know.
Right.
Yeah, all my friends knew that I listened to the hair bands, but you know, secretly I enjoyed all the others too.
Did you ever have the hairbrush and sing into it?
Oh, yeah,
Like,
yeah.
So did that part of you make you feel different growing up too? Like,
Oh, certainly. You know, I for the longest time thought I was the only one until I started seeing them on TV. You know,
right?
you know, and
You mean they just weren't out and about in Spokane? You didn't see?
yeah, you know, and then you know, but once you're in school, you start to hear the names get thrown around, and yeah, I think that started around 2nd or 3rd grade. And
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's so
Before
young,
I could even
especially
know.
for that time.
Right.
You know, now kids know everything.
By
but-
then I knew. I mean, I had a crush on the guy that played Scotty Baldwin on General Hospital back in the day.
Right.
Ken Schreiner. Yeah. I mean, he's still on the show now for as far as I know.
Oh, that's hilarious.
So he's got to be.
We were Days of Our Lives people, so,
okay.
you know.
Yeah. I was the ABC guy. So One Life to Live was actually my game.
Oh, okay.
So it's craziness.
So now you're doing things like the 80s disco,
Yeah.
but you recently started doing a little film work.
Yeah, I kind of put the feelers out there, you know, anybody that wants to make TikTok videos or music videos or have a Sleestak in their video or whatever, just reach out. And
Right?
from there, I did a few little bits here and there. I did a music video that's not released yet. And I did a commercial for a video production company called Video is the Future, where I played the Sleestak cop. And retrieved the baby full of money from the robber that stole it from
the baby full of money?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, the YouTube videos attached to my channel.
Oh, yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah, it's entirely silly, but just the right amount of silly.
Well, I think silly. You got to do silly. I mean, you're at 7-foot
So it was a lot
Sleestak.
of fun.
Silly is a necessity.
Right.
So where, I mean, yeah, but
Yeah. So I got to thinking about it, and as you know, Portland's kind of had a bit of a rough time over the last few years.
yeah, us and everybody else, I think.
Yeah. I think we've been kind of picked out a little bit and
Yeah.
over scrutinized, and in some cases it's worked with good reason. Yeah, a lot of stuff happened here.
Right.
So it's not too hard to watch the news for very long and not get depressed about what's going on.
Exactly.
And I decided I wanted to do something to put something a little positive about Portland out there, and I got to thinking, and I thought, well, what can we do? Like making a video of some kind. And I decided that we should make a remake of the tequila scene from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Yeah.
With the Sleestak is Pee-wee, and then enlist all the other weirdos of Portland to be the bar patrons that get angry at Pee-wee when he goes to use the phone, or Sleestak in this case.
Right.
So I thought it would be a great way to showcase everybody that's kind of been in hiding for the last couple of years, through the pandemic. And just kind of get everybody out there and put something out there that's fun and makes people laugh, and hopefully make people think good things about Portland again.
So you're Sleeswee?
Sleesby, yeah.
So yeah, so that was like a little short movie. How did you collect all of the other Portland weirdos for that?
I put out shout outs on Facebook to begin with, send me names of people that if you have contact information. So I sent out a lot of emails and talked to a lot of people, and yeah.
Well, one of the things I found about Portland
many of them were just right on board, right off the bat, of course.
Yeah, that's what I found about Portland is weirdos are okay with being weirdos, and they kind of like being in,
Definitely.
in the spotlight a little bit.
Another inspiration was the No One character. He is the kind of the brains behind the Be Weird project.
Okay.
And he's doing the same thing. He's making these great little videos with, like the Unipiper and Darcel and people dressed in fuzzy gorilla suits, and just making these quirky little music videos that don't mean anything, but just encourage you to be weird.
Right.
And, I thought, well, I can do that too. So, I approached video as the future, and we started planning the Pee-wee's Big Adventure thing, and we're getting ready to premiere it at the end of the month.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
So what is the premiere going to look like?
Hopefully there'll be lots of costume people. There'll be some photo backdrops to do selfies for an hour and a half or so. And I'll be as the Sleestak, of course, when I'm there for the first little bit. And we'll probably do a few little speeches and hand out some thank yous to everybody that helped, and then we'll premiere the video, and it'll be a live streamed event. So people hopefully everywhere will be watching it.
Right.
We'll see how it goes. But,
everywhere.
After that, it'll be
and
on
then
YouTube.
Hollywood will call, and and then I mean,
we'll be swept away, and
that's what we all dream of anyway. No, that sounds cool. It sounds like you're doing a whole full red carpet.
Yeah, more or less, and without the actual red carpet, but something similar.
Right.
The Blake Olson, his company's called The Earth is Dying, Let's Make Film. He's actually put together the program for the evening, and it'll all be live streamed. And so I'm excited to see what he does.
Oh, that just sounds super cool.
I just said, give me 10 minutes to stand up and say thank you to everybody, and the rest is all yours. So.
Did you ever think that, that started as a Halloween costume would turn into like this awesome, weird, amazing event?
At best, I was originally inspired by those scary snowman videos on YouTube. I thought that's gonna be what I'll do as the Sleestak, and it just didn't work out that way.
Because, nothing scarier than a plant or a snowman. Those are the things that really scare people.
And
but the big lizard man.
I do the plant character too, the Portland Bushman, which is a copy of what people do in
people
other
are
cities.
doing everywhere, yeah.
But it's like shooting fish in the barrel. I think people like to be startled and scared, just for a second, and then they realize it's harmless, and they laugh.
And they laugh,
for the most part, anyway. I mean, what do you do?
Right. Nobody's ever punched you? Or...
Not so far. I mean, I kind of expect it to maybe happen eventually, but hopefully I'll be able to duck quick enough.
Right. Not the Sleestak costume.
Right,
You can't
yeah.
do anything
The
quick in
bushman's
that.
a little bit more movable. So.
Good. So what do you hope to do going forward with this?
Definitely want to make more film projects happen. We've got ideas floating around of doing mock TV openings, like from the 70s show, Three's Company, for example.
Love it. I just binged it. Awesome.
Tossing around with, Sleestak as Jack Tripper, and then maybe the Gay Beards as Janet and Chrissy, and just kind of set it up the quick flash scenes,
right?
Everybody pretending to giggle at whatever the heck's going on.
Absolutely.
How cheesy they were back then.
Oh, but it was such good fun.
Oh yeah.
It was such good fun.
I want it all to be lighthearted and fun and just quirky and unexpected. Somebody approached me recently, actually before the holidays, that she had just moved back to Portland. She apparently has a dancing horse. And she said, I'd like to collaborate somehow.
Right.
And immediately in my head, I think, well, let's do like a Starsky and Hutch opening, only it's going to be Sleestak and horse.
Sure.
I believe the horse's name is Riley, so it'd be Riley and Sleestak. And
well, of course.
So we'll, do the kind of the cars jumping over the, probably stock footage or whatever.
Right.
I can't afford to rent cars, but,
right.
We'll kind of mock up some openings like that, or just do like folk commercials or just stuff to put out there that's silly, that'll make people laugh. And of course, continue to do live appearances around town and photo ops and that kind of thing.
You could do a Mr. Ed situation,
Right.
get the horse to talk, and you be there, the Sleestak with
right.
With
There's actually a plan to recreate the American Gothic photo.
Oh yeah,
painting with Strawberry Pickle from Rainbow City.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's kind of on the back burner, but we'll get there eventually.
Oh yeah, I mean, it seems like you have, endless things.
Yeah,
that you could do with this.
Some of them may happen, some of them may not. It's just thinking of the weird stuff we can put out there. It's just have the fun, I think.
Well, if you ever need a person that is pretty vanilla and has an East Texas accent,
right.
I'm available for short films, and
it's a lot of fun. I had so much fun doing the Sleestak's Big Adventure video. All the right people came together to make it happen, and it was just a blast. I mean, it was a long, hard day, but...
Did you do it all in one day?
Yeah.
What made you choose Pee-wee's Friends?
Well, it just seemed like the perfect vehicle. Here's the Sleestak. He's going to walk into this bar, and it's full of bikers. Well, in this case, it's full of, all of Portland's weirdos. Yeah, it just seemed like the best way to showcase all of the characters at once without too much setup.
Right.
And it's a classic scene. We all knew what to expect to happen.
Absolutely.
We didn't have to write scripts. Eventually we'll be doing our own stuff too.
Right.
Of course. But this just seemed like a lot of fun to try, and just to get our feet wet, I guess.
And now a word from our sponsor, me. So what's the difference in getting pre-qualified for a loan and getting pre-approved? So pre-qualified is the what-ifs and guesstimations. You tell me what you think your credit score is, or maybe what Credit Karma told you it was. But trust me, that is not accurate about 99% of the time. You guesstimate your income. Oh, you think you know your income? You have no idea how many people guesstimate that wrong. And you tell me approximately how much you have in debt, your car payment, credit cards, student loans. And then I can do a quick calculation and tell you if it looks like you might be a good candidate for a home loan. But when it comes to getting a pre-approval letter for your realtor so you can make an offer on your dream home, we can't just take your word for the details. We have to look at facts. We're going to run your credit. And this doesn't just determine yes or no. It can also affect your rate and what lender we can use. We need pay stubs and W-2s in order to calculate accurate income. Did you know that if you make a bonus or overtime, you have to record receiving those incomes for a minimum of 2 years in order for us to be able to use them? We're also going to need 1 to 2 months of bank statements to show you have funds for down payment and closing cost. Now, is that invasive? You bet it is. But you're asking a lender to loan you hundreds of thousands of dollars, and they have to make sure that they're making a good investment in you. Also, when it comes to putting in your offer, pre-approvals that have been verified and completed with full documentation have a much better chance of receiving an accepted offer. So you can reach out to me at Christine@tworiversmtg.com. That's CHRISTINE at TWORIVERSMTG.com to get pre-qualified or pre-approved for a mortgage in Oregon or Washington. NMLS 2248608. And now, back to your program.
Yeah, I was just watching, because Nick sent another one of my guests. He had been on a couple episodes of Portlandia, and it was the Portland Weirdos episode, and Pee Wee was on that episode. And, so, I mean, he's been here in Portland doing stuff. Have you ever met him?
I have not met him, no. We actually tried to hire Cassandra Peterson to reprise her role as the biker chick that says, why don't you let me have him?
Right.
We sent an offer and she was either busy or just declined,
Right.
She's doing her own thing.
You still got to shoot for the stars, though.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, why not?
I probably would have peed my pants if she'd shown up. Oh, my God.
Don't do that in a Sleestak costume. I can imagine that would not be easy to clean up.
He's basically latex parts glued over a wetsuit. So,
so it might be okay.
I'd definitely be moist when I got out. And probably wouldn't smell too well.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I probably don't smell too well crawling out of there. I'm always just soaked when I'm climbing out. So
well, I've got to see the costume up close, and a lot of those kind of things like that, especially like, I hate to use the word homemade because your suit does not look homemade, handmade. It looks
a lot of people think I bought it somehow.
Amazing. Like, it is so intricate. It's so detailed, even up close.
Every scale was carved out of clay and detailed, and
it was shocking to me when you told me that you had made it, because I mean, I'm artsy and craftsy. I've made a lot of stuff, and I could not get past how professional that looked. I mean, it was truly spectacular.
Thank you.
You said that you had done 3D printout for like the claws and stuff.
Yeah, initially I made the first set of claws were on the first suit was kind of a plaster-ish paper mache, more plaster than paper mache because they were quite heavy,
right?
Which added to the unwearability of it
right.
all. And the second suit, I had the 3D printing done from sculptures, but it was the scans were done from a phone app, so all I had was sort of a rudimentary shape that I had to cover with another kind of clay, and I used this epoxy that hardened, but again added lots of weight.
Right.
Unfortunately, finally I got scans of the claws that I wanted to do on an actual computer, and they were printed out from my sculptures. So they did the sculpture of the hands and the feet set, and then just mirrored it to print the other side. So that's the only part of my suit that's actually symmetrical, of course. It's the claws on the hands and the feet, but because the rest of it is just, it's all Frankenstein together. If you really look close, you can tell. But.
Well, I mean, it is so impressive that I was in awe of it. Like the little lady who was touching you all, I was really in awe of it. So do you have any plans to make any other creatures?
I do. Well, I still have the molds for the current Sleestak that I'm wearing, so it's not really completely out of the question that I may build another one if this one falls apart or whatever. But I'm currently working on a Wendigo suit. A Wendigo is like a Native American legendary creature that eats the wicked. He's kind of a spirit ghostly thing that is an amalgam of several creatures.
Send him up to Washington.
Right.
He'll get really full.
And I also have of course, the Portland Bushman costume. There's a Portland Slenderman costume who's in the movie.
Right.
A friend of mine wore that suit that I plan to bring out during Halloween time.
Right.
That kind of thing. Because I never actually, I started out as a Halloween costume, but now the Sleestak really is separate from Halloween. So I try to spread that away from Halloween so they don't just think it's just that.
You don't go to just Spirit Halloween like the rest of us and just find something. With these band of weirdos that you've connected with, do you do other projects with them? I mean,
I'm planning to. Sleestak right now is the center of attention, and as the costumes get finished, I'm going to try taking those out. So far the Sleestak is the big hit,
right.
so and the Bushman, it's a kind of a copy of other people's work, so
Right.
it's still a lot of fun to do.
Oh, yeah.
But the other characters, I'm hoping will take off as well.
Mhm.
So people will they'll just never know what to expect when they open an elevator door and see who's standing there.
Which, people are they're so distracted anyway with their phones. Anything's got to be a little bit
Right.
of a surprise because we're not paying attention, in our day to day. So,
Right? Yeah.
or they just walk past you because they didn't see the 7-foot creature or whatever. 'Cause-
Well, I think sometimes that happens, but I think there are a certain group of people that just pretend they don't see you at all. They don't want to even
they're
acknowledge
too
you.
good.
Oh,
They're
yeah.
too good for that.
It's so funny. No, I don't see that thing.
It's funny because you think about, I'm a gawker.
Mhm.
Like, I'm a total gawker. I love people watching. That's one of my favorite things because people are fascinating, and especially if there's something unusual or
Right.
different. And I don't have any problem like just openly like looking, because it's like, especially you're in a costume, obviously.
You want people to look at you.
Hello, you don't usually do that, just to be incognito.
All right.
But it is funny there was a few of those that we saw that were just like, I'm just not even going to look over. I don't know if they thought if they look over, we're going to try to
They're not
sell
cool
them
or-
something or,
Yeah.
ask them about their auto insurance warranty or, their home warranty or
Have you
whatever.
heard the good word about the Sleestak?
Right. Oh, that would be a good one. Oh, was it already there? Was it
Yeah,
already
yeah,
there? Yeah.
The Sleestak door-to-door peddlers.
Right. I wonder what that, wonder what the Sleestak religion would look like. He would.
And then on the TV show, they had what was called the Library of Skulls, and it was in this temple. It was just all these Sleestak heads
Mhm.
on pedestals that had lights inside them, and I vaguely remember them talking and the lights sort of flickering in unison. And you could go in and ask them questions. They would either, choose to answer you or
That
talk
sounded
in a riddle.
familiar.
That
Yeah.
was like third season stuff. Spencer Mulligan left the show.
Right,
And he
'cause-
was replaced with Uncle Jack.
Uncle,
the guy,
yeah.
the guy that was in the Planet of the Apes series
Right.
on television.
He didn't move very far. That seems like a parallel move,
right.
rather than a.
Yeah, and they actually did a lot to change the show in that third season. So some of it I have fewer memories of than the ones with the dad still there.
Right.
And I'm not certain why. Maybe those didn't get reran as often. Yeah, the Sleestaks were more villainous. The one sort of ally that they had kind of turned on them, the talking one, Enoch.
Yeah. Oh, that's
Yeah, and then they lost their home and had to move to the temple, and so it was very silly.
they had a jump the shark moment. They had to they always think they have to revamp.
Right.
One of my daughters is watching Community, and whatever season of Community she's on is every episode is just like weirder
Right.
than the last one. Like, was that really, did you need a whole episode of claymation? Did you need, why is this whole episode a dream? I mean, every episode. So every show gets to that point where they lose their
Right.
mojo and creativity, and they
Some
have
sooner than others.
yeah, that's the third season seems pretty early to do that.
Well, the crop shows actually weren't really famous for longevity.
Right.
It was just kind of a 1 or a 2 season thing. Even like Electro Woman and Dinah Girl, I think was only 1 or 2 seasons. Sigmund and the Sea Monster.
You say all those things, and it, I guess because we watched them so much,
Yeah.
it seemed like they were longer seasons. I mean,
Yeah, well, they were in syndication too, and
Right.
they reran forever. I don't think there was a whole lot of new programming for kids back then. There wasn't Nickelodeon. There was Channel 2, Channel 4, and Channel 6,
right,
and then PBS.
right.
So you had your Sesame Street and your Mr. Rogers, and then
The
Saturday
Electric
mornings,
Company.
if it didn't get preempted by golf or football,
Not the worst. I know. You ruined my Saturday.
Right. Yeah, I was never the kid to watch football, so yeah, or golf for that matter.
No.
So yeah, when football interrupted the Super Friends, I was not a happy camper.
Well, it's so cool that you're doing all of these things. I think you're also a member of the Weird Portland United.
Yeah. Kind of a coalition of people that just do stuff to make Portland weird. Originally started by the Unipiper.
Mm-hmm.
There's different leaders at the moment, but Unipiper is still involved, of course.
Right.
And they meet, I think, every other month or so, and just sit and talk with somebody who does something unusual.
Mm-hmm.
The last time I went to one of the meetings, Spencer Sprocket was on the stage. He's a kind of a juggler, comedian, general weirdo.
Right.
It was a lot of fun watching him talk about how he got started and why he does what he does. And he does a lot of like birthday party kind of things.
Mm-hmm.
Just a lot of fun. And Brian Kidd, the Unipiper, is
Right.
just a wonderful guy.
Yeah. I mean,
He was right on board to do whatever Sleestak wanted to do when we started doing the planning for this project. So he's one of the main characters, actually. So
before we moved here, we've been here for 5 years, and my youngest daughter and I, we started looking up all of the weird things of Portland, and we would watch videos of, everything from the Unipiper or the soapbox derby,
Right.
or like all of these things. And so we knew about all of these things, the cat rapper, all these things before
I
we
tried
ever
to
even
find
got-
him to get him on my movie, but it didn't work out.
Yeah.
Sometimes emails go unanswered.
Yeah, well, maybe he'll be up for something coming
Hopefully.
up later on, because he seems pretty cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was so cool to see all of these interesting characters that we knew of before we ever moved here. And it's funny because, I mean, I follow everything Portland. Like I wanted to know everything that's going on.
Right.
I know about all the events that are happening. But when I moved here, people in the office that I worked with didn't know who the Unipiper was. I'm like, how do you live here and not know?
Well, it's kind of like anytime you live somewhere, you become oblivious.
Right.
I never went to the Space Needle unless somebody came to town to stay with me.
Right.
And then we'd go up to the Space Needle. So it's not uncommon, I suppose.
Well, I seek out all the weird.
I get emails from time to time. Hey, I'm going to be in Portland on this day, and this day. Are you going to be out and about somewhere? I try to accommodate when I can. But
Right.
it doesn't always work.
Well, are you open to somebody reached out to you for collaboration on something? Or are you?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Anything. I'll certainly listen to a pitch.
Right.
Sure. If it's weird and quirky and stupid for no reason, then I'm game.
Oh yeah, all the more, right?
Right.
It doesn't have to have a purpose.
Public nonsense is what it's all about.
And we need it. I think we need that now more than ever.
Yeah. To counteract all the bad news.
Well, it's light
Yeah.
in the darkness, and we're going to have darkness. It's going to happen. We're going to go through waves of it.
Right.
As a city, as a country. But being able to turn off all the garbage and the negative shouting and everything, and just enjoy some silliness for the sake of silliness.
Right.
Who objects to that? That is, well, I mean, a lot of people,
I
but
suppose.
but
You kids and your music.
you Sleestaks, man, y'all are just destroying this town. But yeah, I think it creates community.
Definitely.
Because you do get, I mean, even if you're standing on the corner in downtown Gresham and somebody goes by and they just get a smile or a chuckle out of seeing that. I mean, that is...
Well, if it leads them to my Facebook page and they like my dumb memes that I make.
You do make I mean, you have been in every situation,
Just
in every
about.
photo.
I was at the Hindenburg, in the background during the filming of the Annette Funicello and the surf movies.
Right. With the
You name 'em,
Beatles, with
yeah. With Kate,
the
the Spice Girls.
right. Now, that's a video I'd like to see. The Spice Girls and the Sleestak. Wonder how we can pull that one out. That'd be
I
so
actually
cool.
just posted one yesterday of the Bugaloos, another Croft show, and sort of superimposed me in the background and wrote this false little story about how I had a whirlwind romance with Martha Ray that played the villain on the show.
Right.
It was total nonsense and absolute BS, but
Right.
funny,
Well, I
funny
mean,
nonetheless.
Weird Al Yankovic, his whole biopic is just made up stuff. So, I
Yeah.
mean, people get paid a lot of money to do that kind of stuff.
Indeed.
And we just got to figure out how to be those people.
Well, it's really never been about the money. I mean, sure, money's great, but it's all just about having fun,
Right.
And the journey getting there.
Well, it's so cool to see how, you did come from this kind of reserved and quiet young man who didn't always find his place in the world to really, this is a huge transformation.
Yeah.
And I think it gives hope to people who don't always, because, being in school, being young, even in young adulthood, it's so hard to feel like you find your place.
Right. And I think that's something people struggle with their entire lives, really, unless they're like some sort of alpha personality or whatever.
Right.
I, if you're not always trying to grow, then what are you doing?
Well, I think, this goes into my whole concept of finding my own weird. I think a little bit of that is in most people. I mean, there's some people that there's none.
Right.
But most people have something. They're afraid to bring it out, or
Right.
they're afraid of judgment, or they're afraid, if I do something weird.
That's the one thing I wish I could have changed about my life, is just the way that I always was worried about what people thought of me.
Oh, for sure.
I mean, if I could go back and say, none of this is going to matter, who cares what they think of you? And actually have listened to it, because I heard that often enough,
Yeah.
but I never believed it. Of course it matters what people think of me, but
Right.
It doesn't.
Well, it's taken me, I'm nearly 50 now, and it's taken me this long to go, I don't really care what
Yeah.
people think of me.
And if you can live your whole life like that, just imagine what a difference
I
that
can't
would
even
have made.
imagine. I can't even imagine who I'd be now.
Right.
I wouldn't be very vanilla. I'd be much. I don't know what kind of creature I would be.
I'd be standing on stages singing at the top of my lungs, probably badly.
I wouldn't do that. No, nobody wants me to do that. But
There's literally 1,000 things I could have, or would have done if I felt comfortable in my own skin.
Is that something you've ever thought about? Is like not singing, but I'm singing too. If you want, if you ever thought about it, but even like talking to schools or anything about how there may be a time where you don't feel like you fit in, or you feel different, or you feel weird, or you are worried about what people think. But you were that kid,
Yeah.
and now you thrive on being just as weird as you can be.
Right.
And it's such a cool and fun and interesting, and you get to meet so many cool people.
Right. It's something I might consider, I guess.
Yeah, I think that would, people would
Even if you
listen.
could
Kids would
change
listen.
one person, even just one.
Just one, because they're everywhere. There's more than one.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
so many. And if they heard it from, they'd listen to a Sleestak.
It doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to run out and build a rubber costume, and but
You never know.
if it empowers somebody to take voice lessons, or join a choir, or
Tap dance, or whatever,
join drama club, or whatever,
or be okay being gay, or all of these things where people are afraid of being their true self.
Right. And, sometimes that's warranted, depending on where you are and your circumstances.
I mean, you grew up in
unfortunately-
Spokane, I grew up in East Texas.
Right.
You
What I'm saying is, it's easier said than done in a lot of cases.
Right.
Every little bit helps, I suppose.
But just holding on. just holding on until, because
Till it gets better.
you don't always have to be where you are.
That's true.
You can make changes in your life. You can just hold on, knowing that, a little bit
Someday.
longer, I'm going to be able to be who I am, and hopefully we're progressing some that people can do that where they are,
Yeah.
and they don't have to wait till they can go somewhere else. But that takes time.
Yeah. And, and I think society makes moves forward and then makes moves backwards, and it's an ebb and flow.
Yeah.
But I like to think that every time we go back a little bit, we move forward a little bit more than we move back.
Right.
And, and it just keeps going. It's never going to be perfect, of course, but.
Well, I mean, you definitely could be an inspiration. I mean, not only to children, but again, like me, who is working towards figuring this out for myself, and knowing that I don't have to care at all. If I do something that's totally dorky, totally bizarre, totally weird.
Right. Even if you do fall flat on your face,
which I've done.
it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter because, in 20 years, nobody's going to remember anyway.
In 5 minutes. In 5 minutes. We have such short attention spans. Yeah. And the people who are judging and the people who are nasty about it, they are so miserable in their own lives.
Right.
And they definitely don't have to bring you down.
Right. Some people just do.
Well, once you learn how to go, oh, I'm making a choice. You don't have to be in my life. That's okay. It sure makes you freer and more comfortable.
Definitely.
Yeah. Well, is there any other events coming up that you want people to know about?
Well, aside from the premiere on the 25th, I'll be at the Mardi Gras Parade in the Mississippi District on the 21st. That's a Tuesday night, Fat Tuesday.
Right.
It's a family-friendly event. Anybody's welcome to join the parade or come and watch.
Right.
I have a little group of Portland Sleestak people. There's other groups also that you can join. The Hill Creature of Oregon has a group there. A few of the weirdos are going to join me.
So do other people dress up as Sleestaks?
No, they'll have my T-shirts on.
Oh, okay.
And, the organizers of the event encourage
your fan club.
lighted costumes, so we'll decorate people with glow sticks and whatnot. And,
right.
So yeah, I'll be riding a rented pedicab that's decorated with flowers and lights and junk, and big parasol umbrella. And the Sleestak is slower than any parade, so we had to come up with a solution for me to be able to be in the parade.
Right.
Last year I had to miss the Twilight Parade. I was in Spokane meeting a brother that was given up for adoption. It just fell on the wrong day.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, the Oregonian asked me to be on their float, and I'm hoping that happens this year. I'm not sure if they're doing a float this year, but we'll find out.
Yeah.
And then I got COVID for the Pride Parade.
Oh my God.
The first Pride Parade in forever.
Oh man, that sucks.
So that got canceled, and so this year I'm joining every parade I can show up, at any cost.
We do have. We have awesome parades here.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, we have really great parades, and it's always a good time, and it's always,
figuring out how to make things like this happen is also part of the fun. Like renting this pedicab thing.
Right.
It's like, well, what can I guess somebody could pull me on a flatbed, wagon or something.
Right.
But I'll fall off. So this
you could
is
be
actually,
the pole dancing. You put a pole in it and be the pole dancing Sleestak. And
for the Pride Parade last year, I was going to ride on they had a flatbed truck for a trans youth group that the sisters were co-sponsoring with
right.
for that ride. So I was going to ride with them. Like I said, that didn't work out. But
the first Pride Parade that I attended when I moved here was 4 hours long.
Oh, I'm sure.
And
you probably saw me there dressed as a bear.
I'm sure I did. And again, I come from little tiny East Texas, where I'd never even been to a Pride Parade, but I knew I wanted to go, and it was like never ending.
You should see Seattle's.
Oh, I can imagine. But it was awesome because it was so celebrated. It was so much fun. It was really hot that day.
Right.
But it was just a blast to just see so many people participating and, and just really allowing people to be who they are.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, I wore a bear costume in most of the last 10 years worth of bride parades.
So when you say bear costume, an actual
Yeah, well, the first one I rented, it was kind of a Winnie the Pooh cheap knockoff thing. And the next year we commissioned one to be made. And so I
Right.
wore that costume year after year. Douglas Furry was his name.
No, it's in the summer.
Yeah.
It's
so
hot.
Yeah.
You don't put yourself in things that are breathable very often.
No. There was good practice for wearing a Sleestak suit.
Sure.
A lot of times I would just sit in the back of the back of the truck and wave, and a lot of times I'd walk. I remember there was one point where we were turning a corner from Burnside to go down the street in front of what used to be the Embers.
Yeah.
And I rounded the corner, and all these little kids come running up and started hugging me. And I started to go down.
Oh, no. Oh, no.
This is how I'm going to die. It's mauled by children on the corner of Burnside. Broadway.
Be on your tombstone.
Right.
Died being loved.
I'm going to be pulled down here, and I'm not going to get back up.
Oh, God.
I did.
Well, obviously.
Clearly.
Yeah. Well, I think what you're doing is super cool. I can't wait to come to the premiere and just enjoy
It's
that.
It's going to be so much fun. It's going to be family friendly. So
Right.
all ages are welcome. There shouldn't be any nonsense that you have to cover any eyes up for.
Right.
Hopefully, anyway, it's
Right.
what I'm putting out there. So it should be a lot of fun. Leading up to the event, they'll be showing videos from all the other participants. Local band Beyond Veronica wrote a song specifically for this video. Replaced the tequila song because clearly we couldn't use a licensed song, so they wrote a song called the Sleestak Stomp. That's the feature of that, where Sleestak gets on the bar and does his dance, and at the end of it, everybody loves him. And
Excuse me.
so
Yeah. Well, it's so cool. This is going to be a blast. I'll make sure to have links to everything that you're doing so people can follow you.
Right.
And no, this is cool. Keep it up because it's bringing so much joy.
It was so much fun to do, and I'm hoping that a lot of people get to see it and they laugh out loud when they watch it, and they'll watch it 100 more times just to make sure they got to see everything.
Right.
'Cause there is a lot to see. There's a lot of people that in the far background of the video that you'll see. Oh my God, what's that character there? He's got leopard spots for hair, that kind of thing. So yeah, I'm hoping that a lot of people get to see it. It'll be on YouTube once the premiere is done. So
Perfect. Well, I'll be sharing that as well.
very good.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much for being here, Brent. I really
Certainly.
appreciate it.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Most everyone has felt different, strange, out of place, or weird at some point in their life. It's funny how such a universal feeling can still make you feel so lonely. You may not can go back to tell your small, insecure self that it all turns out okay, that weird is cool, and embrace the weird, but you can hold your head up proud now. Show your weird out loud. Use your platforms to encourage and celebrate it. Thank you so much, Brent Marr, the Portland Sleestak, for being with us today, and check out his events and his short film in the links below. We'd also like to thank our sponsor, Christine Lassiter, mortgage broker of Two Rivers Mortgage. Reach out to her at the links below to get pre-approved for a mortgage in Oregon or Washington. And go to the links below to find more episodes of Finding My Own Weird. Be sure to like and subscribe so you can see how I'm finding my own weird.